down, and it actually is kind of relaxing. You go nowhere. You're like going out here. You're not moving very fast.
This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Live from Peach Time Out in the heart of Times Square, you're listening to Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good morning, everybody, and welcome to Beach Talk Radio, episode number 218, coming to you live from Peach Time Out in Times Square, just a stone's throw away from the Margaritaville, which is about a year and a few months away. And before we get rolling, our guests, our only guests of the day, we want to let I have them set up for you right here. I know you're too busy jibber jabbering with
I was making our guests welcome.
Oh, we're in the green room. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors and supporters and everybody that helps us out by making sure that Kim has fabulous hair. Little donation here, little donation there. Sun Palace Vacations, Fort Myers Beach Realty, Fort Myers Tiki Tours, Nervous Nellies, Margarita, State Insurance USA, La Ola, it's touching me, La Ola Restaurant, Coastal Vacation Properties, Tuckaway Cafe, Beach Pottery, Shuckers, the Farmers Market at the Beach Baptist, which is coming to a close for May. I think they shut down for a few months, most likely, I'm guessing, because it's too hot. But May 27th.
We'll miss that because there's some amazing vendors there.
Right, and so that means
you're going to miss your muffins, and I'm going to miss the cheese.
So that also means we'll have one available sponsor for the show until hopefully they come back when they reopen.
I told you we need some sponsors for the radio broadcast too.
Yeah, I know.
You got to get working on that.
You tell me what we need, and then you tell me to go do it. It's like we were having this argument last night about you come up with all these ideas, but you don't really want to execute the ideas. You want other people to execute the ideas.
Person.
Yeah. So you sit around and you're like so you give people orders. You tell people what to do, and you expect them to do it. And like your idea last night might have been a good one, but it was like a major amount of work.
Yeah, but the other one, like if there's a restaurant or a hotel that has music, this would be a great opportunity.
People have no idea what you're talking about.
The radio station that we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Then they could be the single person. Like right now we have Island Carts, and maybe Island Carts wants to continue. But if they didn't, we would offer it to somebody else and say, hey, you're our exclusive person. And then while your guests are listening to this amazing music that you put together, every once in a while, they'll hear your stuff that's going on at the hotel or the restaurant or whatever.
All right, let me finish the sponsor sheet. Island Carts FMB that you were mentioning, JPS Vacation Rentals, and Peach Time Out. And thank you all who donated during the week. You find folks that send us money by PayPal, whether it's $5 or $25. You can support us if you want or
and
not.
And just know that, it's if you have value. It has nothing to do with my hair because I'm lucky to get my hair done
a thing,
at
though. It's become a thing.
Very discounted rate.
People talk about your hair. They comment about your hair. And
and then you make me come down here with bad hair.
Yeah. And the other thing is that it doesn't have to be money. Like sometimes people send videos of what's going on the beach because we can't be everywhere.
Content is a great
contribution. Content is just as good as money, honestly. You send a video or you send a picture the thing with the turtles, and I know you think I've done a 180 on the turtles, like I hated turtles.
You're
before
like
this.
a manic depressive with stuff. You're either full throttle or you don't care at all.
No, but the thing with the lighting on the beach was I really wasn't aware about how bad it was. Like until I started seeing the pictures. Like
until you did. But we tried to make you aware in years past. You just
not
don't
of the
listen.
Lights. You tried to make me aware of the turtles. Like you would the ladies would bring in a turtle and you guys would play with the turtle, and the turtle, of course, seeing the turtles was cool. But when you see the lights, like some of the lights are like, it's almost, I was joking with Steve, who, by the way, Steve provides a lot of content for us, and he's tried to make the dollar donation once, and I had to give it back to him because if you're going to give us content, we don't want you to give us money, or well, maybe we do, but I'm just not from Steve, though. I mean,
what does that mean?
Because he gets his money illegally. It's ill-gotten game, and I don't want any part of that. I want everything to be above board. But my point is that some of the lights down there, I can't even believe any of the turtles survive after seeing some of the lights. Like there was this one house that it looked like it was from Las Vegas, and they dropped the house right on the beach. It was so bright. It was crazy. But I don't want to get caught up in the turtle discussion today. I've kind of overdone it, and I think people are getting a little sick of me talking about the turtles, but I love the turtles. I mean, I'm right.
Yeah.
How many nests are we at now?
I just think that we put it in the newsletter. I don't know. I saw one today, but I'm sure that was accounted for the other day.
Yeah. So we have 6 or 8?
8.
8 turtles. So that means
not 8 turtles, 8
that
nests.
8 different mama turtles or loggerheads. Are they all loggerheads?
I believe. I know on Captiva and Sanibel they're all loggerheads. I believe that that's the case
don't know.
here.
You
but
don't
I'm
know.
not 100% sure.
So 8 different mama turtles, or could it be the same loggerhead that came on a different night? Is it 8 different turtles?
Okay, can you just move on?
Do
We
you
went
know-
through this last time.
do you know
People
that
don't wanna
they-
hear
That they
you
can
just
swim 90
said.
miles an hour, those turtles?
Oh, yes.
Ladies and
They get
gentlemen,
caught
our
up.
one and only guest
You're
today.
not going to let me do my...
Oh, yeah. One more thing. One more story. This is funny. Go ahead.
It's not funny. I just want to mention that the mid-May Mayhem fishing tournament is going on today on the beach. And so there's lots of fisher people dotted along the beach. And I want to apologize because I was excited when I was out running. Got excited because I saw someone pull in a fish, and I could tell that they were with the fishing tournament. So I went over, I asked permission to kind of take a picture and talk to them. It was 2 people, and I believe her name was Donna. I didn't catch his name. But when someone, let's just keep this short. When someone is in a fishing tournament and they've pulled in a
I
fish.
love how you're telling a story and then you're telling me to keep it short. I'm not even saying anything.
I know, I'm saying it to me, that you should just not try to intervene. Let them, don't ask any questions. Don't try to take any pictures. I was more in a congratulatory, oh, this is so exciting, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And it
You were-
was not well received.
Did
and
he
then
drop
I
an
get it.
F-bomb on you?
He did not on me. And but I apologize to those guys because I would never want to get in the way of your recording of the fish.
So if somebody came up to you while you were doing the show, would you respond the same way?
Well, but they had the life of the fish in their hands.
I
And so I think the
see.
concern was to get everything done, and I was annoying. I'm
You're a
guessing.
distraction. Like he
I
couldn't
was a
figure out how to keep
distraction.
the fish alive.
Well,
Is
and
it a
I think they
violation?
yeah, you it's
If
a
the
catch
fish
and
dies?
release. Yeah, you don't know. That's the point. You don't want the fish to die. You have to be quick. So
I
I
see.
apologize to them, and I didn't interview any more.
And the
fishing
moral of the
people out
short
there.
story is?
Just observe and move on.
Gotcha. All right. All right.
But we wish luck to all of them, and I
Yes.
hope they win
Except
the
that-
$500.
Except that guy. He was a
No,
meanie.
it was a nice fish.
Well, how
I
big
hope
do you
they
think it
win.
was?
I have a picture of it, but I'm afraid to.
Was he
even
fishing with a
put that out.
bobber?
No, lures.
See.
So good luck to them and
Good luck,
everybody
everybody.
out there, and
Well, I'm
win
sure we'll
that
have pictures.
$500.
When they Tuna Skin sends us pictures of all the winners, you'll be able to ID the guy that dropped the F-bomb on his wife, right?
Dear, I didn't hear anything like
I
that.
see.
I don't know why you're making up
I
stuff.
didn't. I made it up. I just made it up.
Jesus.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to introduce the birthday boy for today.
No
I just
way.
found out it's Jim Atterholt's birthday.
On World Migratory Bird Day?
It's crazy how that
Wow.
happens. How did you manage that?
Really?
Very melancholy day today.
You know what?
Big
Melancholy.
No,
Big
the
6-0.
big 6-0. This
Yeah.
is a big one. Wow.
You're 60.
60.
Wow, you're in great shape for 60.
are.
Well, I'm working on it. That was kind of my motivating force. Is to, when I turned 60, I had certain weight goals, fitness goals, and didn't quite make it.
All right, so let's.
But you're
let's-
close.
But some crazy person talked me into running in a triathlon.
Stop filibustering, Jim. Let me
Yeah.
ask the
so
question.
that out of
And
just
some-
out of sheer fear, I'm now really training.
Yes.
Yeah,
And some other crazy person really put the hammer on me to do it.
fair enough. I'll take
So
guilty as
Jim
charged. Yes.
Atterholt, you're 60 and you are 6 feet,
I am 5'10".
5'10", and your goal weight was what?
My goal weight was under 180.
And so what do you weigh?
I'm 181 right now.
Ah,
I see. You're
close.
and I'm
What
5.
are you?
I'm 5'9" and 182.
Are you really?
So we should be, and I'm 56 or 7, something like that.
6, I think,
So
or
when
6.
we launch like this race that
When
we're all
we
running
launch.
in is June the 5th in Naples. It's a baby race. It's a 5K, and then a 9-mile bike and then a 1-mile run, or for you guys, it's a 5K, a 9-mile bike, and then a quarter mile swim. And I'm not getting in the water, but
Which
we don't
is
need to go into that.
440 yards.
Right. So all 4 of us are in. Your lovely wife is in too. And when we launch from the 5K, we should just be neck and neck, right? We should just what is your 5K pace right now?
It's you ask me that all the time, and I never answer because I train differently. First of all, you this morning revealed that you have 2 broken toes, so you're already making excuses for your performance in June, which I thought was very clever.
And a broken rib.
And oh my God, now that's legitimate. If is that true?
It is.
Okay, all right, well, then broken rib. That's pretty serious.
I don't know. It could be true by then if he
But
keeps
all
it
of
up.
my running training is on the beach. We follow all the low tides, and we run on the beach. We bike on the beach. We bike down to Bowditch and back. So all of our training's on the beach. So it'll be so weird running on concrete or blacktop.
It will be easier.
It should be easier.
Right. So, I mean, you brought up my broken toes and I brought up my broken ribs. So if I run faster than you, that's going to be even worse for you.
All the lamer, yes, which I'm prepared to
And I will
take
tell
a lot of
you,
grief for this.
I'll tell you his strategy is to go out fast and try to, demoralize you.
This is what I was always taught. Like, I think it was Glenn, our friend Glenn, or maybe it was John Gamba. When you get ready to pass somebody, like you creep up on them slowly, and then when you get close to them, you go by them so fast, and you smirk. Do you make some kind of smirking noise?
I doubt either one of them.
Because you don't ever want them to think that they can catch you again. Now, of course, I'm not going to do that to anybody. I don't think I can. I was running on a 5K in Cape Coral over the bridge or something. This was 100 years ago, and I started to creep up to a guy, and I was going to do this, and he looked over to me, and he said, "Oh, no way," and he just flew by me so fast. He demoralized me in the worst way. The old ladies were running by me at that point.
I envision that as you pass me, I see an elbow flying my way. It's just to try to, throw me for a few minutes.
So rude. I can't even believe.
Well, that's what I'm going to need to do to get ahead of you guys before we hit the swim with your wife, who's
Brenda's
a fish.
swimmer. She is a swimmer. So I tell you what, but we train. I encourage people. I know people have shark phobia and all that. But when you,
why would you bring that up?
But I'm just saying, when it's calm out because our beach is so shallow for so far out, anybody that can get to a beach access and go swimming in that, you get these little swim buoys.
Which, by the way, Jim, is not allowed in the race.
But just for regular folks who want to train and swim in the ocean, just put the swim buoy on and wait for a nice calm day and swim along the coastline. You could always touch the bottom if you get worried.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the most there's no pounding on the joints. It's such a great way to get some extra, so relaxing. You don't have to make any turns like in a pool. You don't have to worry about running into anybody. So relaxing. And same with running. We always look at the tide chart. And on a low tide day, or for biking, it's like biking on the street on the sand, and it's so beautiful in the morning. So it's a great way to train, is to stay on that beach, and we'll go up and down the island all the time. So that's been a good outlet for us.
And finally, on that June 5th race in Naples, they do a great job. It's well organized. It's a lot of fun. People go down there. We've done it. Well, I think this might be the first year back after the COVID. But we did it at least once, maybe more than once. They just do a great job, and it's a lot of fun. It really is a lot of fun. And so
and it's different to do it in reverse.
So usually
we did a little sprint triathlon in Indianapolis one time where they had. We lived right downtown Indianapolis. I was working at the state capitol at the time, so we had an apartment right across the street from the Capitol, and so all the sports teams were down there, and they coordinated a sprint triathlon where you would run to the Colts stadium, and they would announce you as you run into the stadium because you would chip on your shoelace, and then you'd kick a field goal, and then you'd run over to we had a AAA team, the Indians, and you'd run the bases on the Indian stadium. Then you'd go over to where the Indy 11 soccer team played, and you'd kick a goal. And then you'd go over to where the Pacers play, and you'd shoot free throws. And it was such a cool run.
Nice.
And it was a great idea.
So usually when we have you on, Jim, you have an opening monologue, and I wanted to make sure that if you did, I didn't interrupt you. Do you have something
nice of you to call it? Well, usually it's called a filibuster, but I don't have anything in particular this morning. Happy to talk about whatever issues of the day you'd want.
I did want to start off
to your listeners.
But I did want to start off with what your thoughts on how Margaritaville is coming along.
It almost get goosebumps going by because it's so transformative for this particular distressed part of the island. And it's so cool to also see the gentrification of all the businesses that are going on around it. Obviously, that I was just talking to Steve this morning, the pedestrian overpass is actually going to be put up in August of this year, and it won't be functional, obviously, but you'll see it. It's all one piece, so you'll begin to really get a sense of how it's going to look long term. But that pedestrian overpass, I think that's going to be another transformative piece of Margaritaville, and I hope it's a model for our island, because I'd love to see one a little further south on the island. I'd love to see one by the North Bridge, because if we could get people going over the traffic, walking over the traffic, and I think people will. I mean, the Margaritaville overpass will be air conditioned. There'll be restrooms there. So I'm hoping folks will utilize it, because that just allows the traffic to flow. So it's exciting. The whole concept of the Renaissance is exciting. We're seeing Bayside Park. Hopefully it will be done by the end of the year. We're going to walk down there this morning, hopefully. Check. And then you'll see Times Square, unfortunately, experiencing a little delay, but I think for a good reason. We're going to get potentially a couple earmarks from the state for $2 million to help with this. We're going to be able to use some of the Recovery Act money for the water and sewer piece of Times Square. But in order to do that, we have to push it back until 2023 after season, because if we were to start it now, we can't start it till the state funds come. That's going to push us into season next year, which I don't think the merchants want. And I've been kind of a liaison with the merchants here, and I think the general feeling was let's better to wait till after season next year. But find a contractor who's willing to work 24/7 and really put some incentives in to get this thing done by September 2023, which is when Margaritaville will open. And then you'll also see at Bay Oaks, the new community center. That'll probably break ground middle to later part of this year. Should be done by middle part of next year. Mm-hmm. So you'll see most of the Renaissance done. Estero Boulevard just had the ribbon cutting 2 months ago. Spectacular. And then the South Bridge will start probably near the end of the year. I just had a meeting with Commissioner Sandelli on Thursday. I met with the deputy manager for Lee County. I mean, Ray Sandelli, he's so awesome. He brought me into the office. He had a senior team there. Talked with the head of the Department of Transportation for the Lee County, the deputy manager. We went through all the issues that were facing Fort Myers Beach. It's interesting. The South Bridge, which by the way will be spectacular as well. The amount of sidewalk space, bike space compared to what it is now will be really night and day. But that originally was, just to give you a sense of how crazy our world is right now, that project was originally slated to be under $50 million. It's now up to $80 million to build that South Bridge, and still rising. So, I mean, these are challenging times, but, hopefully folks will be able to figure it out, and we get all this stuff done, and this island will really be transformed, I think, in a primarily positive way.
All right, well, thanks for coming on. You covered all the topics in one answer.
With all of the things that you just mentioned and the timelines and the dates that things will be completed, do you think the lights will be in place along that time? I know this is not a setup, but it's a great question, because I set the table for you, to borrow your term. I love that every time. Could you just set the table for us on this?
Well, we start these meetings without giving any background, so it's always helpful to kind of get some background.
I agree. It's not a criticism. I love it.
Fair point. So the lighting issue, and I hate to put all our eggs in one particular basket, but we sort of been forced to do that. There is when this whole process went through, the lighting discussion, I know it's been going on for many years, but the more recent discussion, we had the Public Safety Committee and and MRF, our Marine Resources Task Force Committee, did a great job analyzing it, in spite of our lighting consultant, who was left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
But our advisory committees did a great job, and the safety committee said, let's have a 365-day a year consistent solution throughout the island. And MRF said, let's have it be an amber solution. And I think we have found a light fixture that will do both, and do it in an efficient and in a way that will enhance public safety as well, and also be sensitive to our marine life. And the key thing is, though, this fixture has to be approved by Florida Power and Light. And they have a tariff program that will cover most of the costs if they approve this light fixture. So it's going through testing right now at Florida Power and Light. It's in these giant bins where they give it the whole, the ocean water and the salt, and it's kind of a corrosion study, if you will. We should know by June. And the county, by the way, is already using this fixture, so it's not some pie in the sky thing. The county likes it; it's working. But FP&L wants to do their own study. If it passes muster, we should be able to hit the ground running with installation soon, and it could solve a lot of our challenges. But if it doesn't pass, we've got to go back to the drawing board. Not completely, but it's going to be frustrating. But I think people are optimistic we're going to make it through.
So is that the light that's at Old San Carlos here over by Times Square?
I think it's the same technology. Whether it's the exact fixture or not, I'm not sure, Ed. That's a good
so
question.
when if this light doesn't pass FPL, it's more of a major problem than you just
it is a major
pointed
problem
out.
if it doesn't pass.
because
question
there's
about it.
no other option.
Well,
is
there's Cree.
there's older amber lights, which you need more of. They're not as efficient.
It's going to be more costly.
It's
going to
be more
costly.
costly. No question about it. No question about it. And
So fingers crossed
fingers
that
crossed,
Visionaire gets all and
Okay.
and
I need to rewind a little bit because you went through all the projects a little fast. Are those coconut palms at Bayside Park?
well, I'm not somebody who would know such a thing, but I hear that
You're
they
not an
are.
arborist?
I
Okay,
don't.
wasn't the town manager told not to put coconut palms at
I
Bayside Park?
remember one of our counselors
Vice mayor.
was quite vehement on that, and so again, we're going to walk down there after this to check it all out. But I don't even know what a coconut. I couldn't
Neither do
tell
I,
a
are
but
there
coconut from a royal
apps where
palm.
you can take a picture and it'll identify it
Now,
for you?
we have somebody. We had a palm tree in our backyard that got poisoned. He had to take the tree down. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because we have somebody that I sent the picture to, and he said it's a coconut
Yeah,
palm.
I may very well be. I'm not saying it's
Right.
not. I just don't know.
So
Yeah.
if the
But is
town
he an
manager was told
arborist?
not to put a coconut palm,
well, I don't
tree
know
in-
if it was a miscommunication between the town manager or it was the contractor. I don't know.
I
I
see.
mean,
Where
we'll
the
figure it out.
breakdown
Yeah,
occurred.
Okay.
we'll figure it out.
as far as Times Square goes, is this going to be finished at the same time Margaritaville opens?
Well,
That
that's
is
the hope.
that is the goal. We'll hopefully incentivize the contractor with bonuses to make sure that gets done. Hopefully they'll work double shifts. It really needs to be done
For sure,
by then.
for
and,
sure.
and everyone, because because we're pushing it out, we'll be able to order all the materials in advance and store them. So when we can start, we can hit the ground running. So there shouldn't be supply chain issues. So that should really help mitigate some of the risk.
Right. Go ahead. What were you
No,
gonna
go
say?
ahead.
So the
Cut me off before.
are all the merchants happy?
Well, you've been around long enough, Ed, to know that I don't think all the merchants are always happy, but I think there's been a great communication. We've been meeting with them. Anita Saracita is kind of our liaison with them. I've been sort of assigned from the council to be part of it. John Lawlow's been very active. All the merchants have been engaged, and quite honestly, I think they get it. And I think there's a couple folks that are. I think John's got still some concerns about peacetime out. Some of the things that have been promised but not
Awnings,
necessarily
some kind
codified.
of-
He wants a different kind of overhang.
Yeah.
He wants it to be consistent with the ones his neighbors, which I understand. And I think people think that can be done. I think he's hoping for some kind of a more formal assurance, which is fair.
The biggest problem they have, not the biggest problem, but a big problem is the birds. Like the birds crap on the umbrellas, and so if you guys have those, I'm probably asking a
Hoovered.
question you can't answer, but if you have these slats that block the sun during the hot times but open up, I mean, how are you going to keep the birds from crapping on the people? I mean, what's the plan there?
Because
That's
they're
the-
not going to have the umbrellas underneath.
Right. Well, I mean, they're
okay.
going to put umbrellas underneath. If the
Okay.
birds, no, I'm just saying that the plan was not to have umbrellas.
That's
But
right.
if
That's what I thought.
the slats are going to open, correct?
I think they can open, but I think they can open at an angle so they don't have to be completely open. So they can let air through. But again, I'm not
But
an
not
expert on-
poop.
well, I don't know. But I mean, you know how if it's at an angle, you can still have
Yeah.
air coming through without the
No,
stuff
I have
being able
no
to
idea
drop
what
on your
you're
hand.
saying. It's going to drip on them.
No, but I
No,
mean,
no,
if
no. If
it's like
just
this,
angled slightly,
it's still
Uh-huh.
it's open.
Uh-huh.
gravity will keep it there.
Okay.
But I don't know it. I don't.
So
know.
what about the sale? Do we know where we are with the sale? Because the sale there was some controversy with it blocking the view and all that.
My position is the sale is a bad idea.
Okay.
I mean, because to me, when we try to compete against this ocean view, we're always going to lose. That ocean view is beautiful. There's no reason
It's
to
not the
block
ocean, by the way. I don't know how many times.
Well, the Gulf of Mexico.
he keeps
I
saying,
always- I know
I
that.
say
I always
that because
get
Ray
the
says
mayor
to him all the
correct me.
time.
He's technically right, but to me, when you look upon that vast water, it's an ocean. But
Yes.
you're right; it's the Gulf side.
Yeah. So no sale, and the clock stays, and there's going to
No,
be
I
a
don't think
stage.
it's been definitively said no sale, but that would be my position: no sale.
The
And the
clock,
clock is
some
staying.
kind of
Yeah,
clock.
Yeah.
Might not be that clock, but it'll be a clock.
Well, that
and a
clock
stage.
has got some challenges internally. It's
Yeah.
just so how this
But can
the
it
weather.
be a clock like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
People are
absolutely.
taking pictures by that clock all
Oh,
the time.
sure.
Yeah.
Now the
You
final.
can't have like a digital.
And I think that
clock or something
resurfacing is
like
going to be beautiful. I mean, the new
Oh,
vegetation,
sure.
it's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
spectacular.
And the last question about Times Square is the stage. There's going to be a stage out there that's going to be now a town stage, right?
Well, I mean, the town's facilitating it. Yeah.
And right now, the merchants on Times Square pay for everything. So is that going to now be something that the town pays for the bands, and the town is?
I'm not again throwing you a softball, but it's a great question because we're also going to have a stage. Aren't you going to ring the bell?
1-1.
1-1. All right,
But we're going to have a stage at Bayfront Park, Bayside Park. We're going to have an amphitheater at Bay Oaks. And one of the reasons that there's talk about consolidating the 3 advisory committees, BORCAB, CELCAB, BORCAB, which does the Bay Oaks.
There's too many committees.
CELCAB that does the Mound House and Newton Park, and CRAB, which has been relatively inactive the last couple of years, to have them all together so we can begin to coordinate these type of questions. In other words, what entertainment is the town going to facilitate? What entertainment are the not-for-profits going to facilitate? What entertainment are the businesses going to facilitate? How can we partnership? How can we, there's economies of scale sometimes when you do things like this. What show you don't want to have a nice show at Bayside at the same time you're having one at Times Square, same time you're having one at Bay Oaks. So you have to coordinate and coordinate schedules. So I don't know how it'll work, but I'm hoping that we do work together to facilitate live music and shows and movies and do all kinds of different things we could do as a community to have a great community.
Big audience today, Jim. Big audience. So a lot of people want to know what you are saying. Let me ask one final question about these projects, and I'll.
Well, I wanted to ask about the Times Square project.
I'm not going to ask about. Okay, go ahead.
So you talked about the resurfacing.
Yes.
What is that gonna be? That made me think about how the street is done with that kind of unique kind of drainage in the middle. What are they doing?
It'll be a type of paver.
Okay.
I've not seen the actual material, but I've just seen pictures of it. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But I don't know that material itself. Kim,
because I know sometimes there's, the drainage. You got to make sure.
Well, the drainage piece will be handled when they redo Times Square. They're gonna level it. They're gonna put in obviously the underworkings with the new water and sewer. And a lot of it they're gonna have to dig to see what they find. As you remember, the first segment of Estero Boulevard, one of the challenges and one of the delays was they dug. There was stuff that wasn't on the maps. There's just you learn a lot just by digging, and that seems crazy. But some of this stuff is so antiquated, the maps just aren't very good. So we really won't know until we get underneath how challenging it'll be.
Yeah, I don't know how many hours ago it rained, but there's still standing water right outside Pizza.
That will all be remedied. Yeah.
So
that would be the goal anyways. Yeah.
So the last question about Bayside Park is, in addition to the stage, there had been some discussion about a memorial for veterans, but I haven't heard anything about that. Are they still doing it?
The space is allocated for it, and it's reserved and preserved. There was a kind of a subcommittee that was encouraged to come up with some ideas. That's been a bit challenging. I do think, that will probably become a longer term goal. As far as I'm concerned, that will not be a lost goal. We have to have a veterans memorial there. That was one of the few. When we debated that building, and I was not supportive of that building for the mooring field, but I'm just saying when
that right out there.
No, I'm just telling you what. But the one thing that everybody agreed on was the Veterans Memorial. So that's something that could bring our community together, and we have to figure out. And I'd like to see veterans from the island making that decision as to what that looks like. Yeah,
Forrest.
Forrest was leading the effort, and he'll tell you he's tried to get together with some of the other folks on the island, and of course I think he was a sergeant in Vietnam. God bless him. And in the military culture, as you talk to the generals and the colonels, and he's having a hard time because of the hierarchy of corralling the troops and getting some unity on that. But I don't underestimate Forrest. He'll be able to get it done.
Oh no, I agree.
So enough of the softball questions. Let's get into the nitty gritty here. So let's start with the jet ski ordinance.
Okay.
For the longest time, it appears, according to Daphne, who works for the town, that the town has not been enforcing the ordinance. I shouldn't say jet ski ordinance, although there's a jet ski ordinance, there's a sea turtle ordinance, but she said
there's a Paracel ordinance.
Right. She said the town was not enforcing the jet ski and Paracel ordinance. When you heard that, what was your first thought?
I have to say it was a little bizarre. That's bizarre to me. And just as the turtle ordinance is not being enforced, and it sounds like that's going to change, and hopefully it will. And in the turtle ordinance, a little bit different because the first couple of years we did need some time for education. We did time for warnings. We needed time to kind of get people's attention, get them up to speed. I think we're at that point. I don't want to get off the jet ski thing, but the turtle.
I have the turtle thing on our list.
We'll get to that next time. But on the jet ski thing, it was very surprising to hear that no enforcement takes place on the jet ski.
Now,
assuming that's true, I don't know.
After TPI backs out of wanting to have a jet ski and a Paracel license there, now the town has opened up the ordinance, and they're going to have. I heard Roger and Heron were going to have a meeting to talk about rewriting the ordinance, and they're going to have a workshop and make some changes to the ordinance. But I mean, I look at the town website because I have nothing else better to do. There was a violation written on whoever Mid-Island Water Sports at the Wyndham, because apparently they leave some of their stuff out in the sand when you're supposed to move it all back behind the dune. And so apparently they opened up a can of worms now, and everything's going to be examined more closely. What do you want to see as a result of a new ordinance?
Well, I think some of my colleagues are involved in the minutia more than I am on this, but I would love to see a system that encourages the good actors and incentivizes the good actors, of which there are many of the vendors, and discourages the bad ones. In other words, right now there's no evaluation of who gets these licenses. There's no process. I noticed the other day the county renegotiated their contract with the vendor on the pier, and they pay a significant amount of money to the county to have that location. And I'm not saying it should be this. It's a little bit apples and oranges, but the concept is, which vendors are going to partner with the town, which vendors have the best safety records, and the good vendors ought to be for this because it advantages them, and they should have an advantage. So my sense is there could be, and again, it's a tough issue, because the vendors are very involved in this process, and I think they want what's best for the island. But there may be literally a revolution in terms of how this whole thing is set up. Maybe. I mean,
do you think there needs to be a cap?
I do think we do need to limit the amount of folks on the beach, and I've told the vendors that from the very beginning, because I've heard stories from folks that have been around here a lot longer than I, that it was the wild, wild west out there, and that's not good for anybody.
But isn't separation by
you're asking all my questions.
Isn't separation by feet enough? You have no vendors at all the way on the end of the island, on the other end of the island. How is that fair if somebody wanted to set up, because you have a cap on it?
Well, I think that it could be done by distance apart. Again, this is going to be something
which would be self-limiting. I
Would
mean,
be
if you
self-limiting.
Eventually there's a cap, but
Yep.
right now you cap people off from operating on the other end of the island, don't you?
We had a limit on distance, but they grandfathered everybody
It makes it moot.
which makes it moot. It does.
Right.
I know. So I'm saying it's almost like we have to start. If we're going to do this, we have to start over, start from scratch, listen to everybody, have this workshop. But it seems like the whole paradigm is flawed, and we need to take a fresh look at it.
So-
and I'm open to everybody's input on it.
going forward,
I don't have all the answers, by the way.
no, neither does he.
I'm not an elected official. I don't claim to.
Would you be in favor? Would you be in favor of the distance, like some sort of distance between?
That seems logical, but I'd like to hear from the vendors. I'd like to hear from the public safety folks. What makes sense out there? I mean, I'm on the beach all the time. We're either running, biking, swimming, hanging out. And, when those jet skis go out, there's a lot of activity. You want somebody who's a trained professional getting those folks out beyond the buoys
Mm-hmm.
and making sure they're doing the right thing by the people who are in the water swimming and recreating in the water. And it needs to be you need to have seasoned professionals out there, and the people who go out, many of whom, maybe have
First timers.
Yeah.
or they've had a couple cocktails.
Right.
Sure.
You got to really make sure these folks are educated before they go out.
What about,
Yeah.
do they currently have somebody out there kind of monitoring?
I don't
Yeah.
think so, unless the vendors do it themselves. I
Right.
don't know.
I think the thing about let's be black and white just for
Yeah.
a second, Jim. If you're talking about safety, you shouldn't be grandfathered in. If your argument is safety, you shouldn't be grandfathered in. There should be, if the jet ski god decided 500 feet was safe, then everybody should be 500 feet. Because if you're saying, not you, if the goal is to be safe and nobody wants to see somebody die on a jet ski, and I'm not taking a shot at any of these vendors. These vendors are nice people. They're good people.
Yeah.
But don't use the argument that you're doing it for safety if you're within the 500 feet, because you all want to be in the downtown area.
I don't disagree with that at all. That's a spurious discussion when you have all these grandfathers. But I think they needed to do the grandfathering to get it
At the
passed
time,
in
yeah,
the first
yeah,
place.
yeah.
I think it was a political necessity at the
see.
time to get it passed. In order to get the support of everybody, you had to grandfather folks in.
Gotcha.
I get that, but that was a lot of years ago. So at this point, we need to just take a step back, take a look, listen to everybody's input, and let's see what happens.
And I would think that it's so busy down here now. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many more people down here, so it also would be a good time to take a look at
Well,
it because it may not.
And
meet
it's an
the
interesting
needs.
if you talk to Tom Torgerson, they made a business decision not to participate. They felt like it's so beautiful out on that beach to have a quiet area for their guests and not have the chaos of the parasailing and the jet skiing. That added value to that. Was a decision that they made. Then they should have had the right to do that. I thought initially I got involved in this because I thought there was a barrier to entry to some of the key property owners who ought to have a role in their future. And I was told by some people I respect that the promises were made for them to be able to do that. In a perfect world, that should have been codified in the ordinance. It wasn't, so it was a little bit gray. But since they've decided as a business decision they don't want to participate in that model, that's great. That's fine. And so let's take a step back. Let's listen to everybody. Let's have this workshop and let's see where it takes us.
Real quick, how is it that an item that discusses a person's pool, a 5-foot separation from the pool, setback from the pool to the fence, comes to the town council level?
And that's a great question. Sorry,
Ah.
Kim, but it is because I think it has something to do with history of this town. Certain councils, they get a little crossways with their town manager and the staff, and then they don't want to, lend out that trust, and so they want every decision to come before the council. Then other councils get more comfortable with the staff and the town manager, and they want to grant them additional authority. I think before I got on the council, I think we inherited a sort of a methodology that we want to make all those decisions, and then over time, I do think, it's going to go back to staff to a certain extent, because what my argument is, we have an awesome LPA. We got super qualified people on the LPA. I don't know why, if the LPA votes unanimously for something, we can't have a fast track process. Why the council has to relitigate the whole thing all over again when really smart people have already spent a lot of time looking at it. I wish there was a way for, there may be certain exceptions. Like the LPA, I was on the LPA, so sometimes the LPA acts as a canary in a coal mine, and it enlightens the public to a situation they may not have known about. So all of a sudden the LPA hears something, and all of a sudden the rest of the public learn about it. Then they all come out to the council and get more involved. And there are certain occasions where that happens,
all right,
but
yes.
most of them they don't. These little pool things.
Come on,
I would trust the
Complete
LPA
waste
to
of
make those
time.
decisions,
Or trust the town staff.
or staff, and we should be able to move. That would make our meetings a lot shorter and more
for
efficient.
sure. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I think
So
you want
what-
to save this one till the end, but
Yeah, let's
That's a
talk
perfect
about
segue
obviously
for
the
it.
big issue right now, or a big issue, is the window tint issue.
that's not
It's
what I was
gonna
thinking.
it's gonna come up for a public hearing on Monday. If you go, for folks that don't know, if you rewind a little bit, there's an ordinance that's been on the books for 2 years that requires new windows that are installed, new construction or replacement windows, to be 15%. And what that means is 15% transmittance of the lights from the inside to the outside to protect the turtles, because clearly, if you saw some of the pictures on our Facebook page in the last few weeks, you people on the beach, some people don't know how to turn out their lights
versus 45%.
versus 45%. So there was going to be a
Okay.
rollback on whether or not they needed to institute for a year, a 1-year moratorium on the 15% to give people a break, because there are a lot of condos on the beach that are doing replacements. So fast forward a little bit, a public hearing is going to be Monday. We've got now that the Marine Resources Task Force has flip-flopped on the issue. They recommended the moratorium. You guys took their recommendation. On Monday, you're going to hear them flip-flop and say, forget about it. We saw these windows at the Pink Shell. 15% looks just as good as 45%. How are you going to vote Monday?
Well, I'll tell you exactly. Let me just, you did a nice job of setting it up, but let me just say this.
Setting the table.
No, it's setting the table. But I think the council actually didn't adopt or didn't suggest the Murph recommendation. The council said not 1-year moratorium. Let's just go back to 45%.
Okay.
And that was the direction we gave our town attorney, and that will be the first draft of what we hear on first reading on Monday. So my position is a couple things. Number one, I'll just give my background. Is I live on the beach. Full disclosure, I live at a condo on the beach. Blessed to live on the beach, and as someone who's blessed to live on the beach, I feel an obligation and a responsibility to live in concert with the marine life. And so Brent and I had these blinds installed that cover the complete windows, and we set a timer. We close those things religiously during turtle season. We're trying to be very conscientious about it. But at the same time, I'm not in denial about the problem. I mean, these pictures are just indicting, and people need to do better. But the vast majority of folks are complying. And what happens is when you make everybody do 15%, it's like when you're in kindergarten and somebody misbehaves. That could have been me, by the way, misbehaving. But
you ruined it for the whole. You bad apple.
Yeah, but they punish the whole class.
Bunch.
And this ocean view is a dynamic where, I mean, if it's, and I know there's a lot of differing opinions on this, but they handed out a sample of the 15% glass. It's dark. It's like wearing sunglasses in your condo. Now, what the pink shell did, and I talked with Bill Wachulis, who's the general manager there. I didn't get a chance to go over there, but I did see the pictures. It's a covering of the glass. It's not 50% glass. It's a tint that gets put on top of the glass. And for the pink shell, which has a lot of turnover and a lot of new folks coming in on a regular basis, that makes sense.
Makes life easy for them.
And they choose to do that, and God bless them. I think it's a great thing for them. And other condo units who have a lot of renters who start to, if we actually enforce the ordinance and start to get fines because they just can't get the renters to comply, then maybe that 15% glass makes sense for them, or the tinting makes sense for them. But to mandate that on everybody on the beach seems to me punitive and excessive. Again, acknowledging that there is a problem. But I can just tell you, last year, Chad took some pictures of our building, sent us a warning, and I went to our condo board, and it got everybody's attention, said what the fines could be. Everybody was talking about it. And I can tell you, if that actual fine would have come to our building, that would have even
What is the fine?
Well, I think it starts at $250, and I think it goes to $500. And then I think there's additional.
Is it per window or just per?
I think it's how they decide to write it. But I think they were just going to do it to the building. Then the building it's impossible for Chad to know which unit it is.
Right.
So the building has
But he could count how many windows.
Well, he could count how many windows. He could also send the pictures so the condo board could then figure out whose window it was. And one of the things that was suggested was, hey, how about you go out and check your own building? So Brenda and I went out last Saturday night, and there was one unit on the 7th floor.
Nice date night for you guys.
Very romantic. And then, but it was just blatantly, I mean, all their lights were on. And so we went up there, knocked on their door. They couldn't have been more gracious. They're totally spaced, and they shut their blinds. Everything was fine. But, why can't, during turtle season, you have somebody, or maybe it's your building management, some like next to our building is EBT. They've got their own full-time security person. Why can't they go out there on occasion and self-police a little bit? It doesn't all have to be government. We ought to be doing self-policing ourselves. I typed up signs. I put them all over the building, in the elevators, and all the doors, and all the common areas, because people forget. And so, but there has to be, it can't just all be on, although the town needs to enhance their enforcement, no question, but we need to do a better job of enforcing it ourselves. And let's start finding folks if there is non-compliance, and let's see what happens. My guess is, again, living in that condo culture, is that word will get around and people will start complying. And those people who have no control because they rent, maybe they need to get that 10, or maybe they need to go to 15%.
It seems like the town.
Well, and when you get other people in the condo, the not pressure, but the encouragement of your other, neighbors.
No question about it.
Will help.
And some of the rental companies and some of the people who rent, I've heard one of the folks testify, and I also talked to a guy who runs a rental company who manages rentals. They text their renters every night. Say it's 7:30, time to shut your lights up, 8 o'clock. And so there's things that can be done, and maybe contractually, when you rent a unit, maybe you put a security deposit down, and maybe that's part of the, if there's a fine for the turtle.
That was my idea a couple of weeks
maybe
ago.
You said that. Yeah. So maybe there's ways you can do this without punishing everybody on the island, I think. And if we can't, then maybe we'll look at that down the road. But
I just want to, just for clarification. So right now at your place, is it 45% on all the windows, or some windows 0?
Well, some would be 0, and we actually have, there's folks on our floor that have turtle glass, which is 11%. And then there was other folks who got the 11%, thought it was so onerous that they changed back. So you have quite a mishmash, honestly. Okay. But if you close your blinds, it doesn't matter what percent it is. It works unless you've got a bright light right by your blind, and your blinds are thin.
How does somebody come up with 11% instead of 10 or 15? So Murph voted unanimously. The Marine Resources Task Force voted unanimously to rescind their recommendation to the moratorium and enforce the 15%. You didn't say where you're going to vote on Monday.
My position is we ought to stay with Murph also unanimously recommended much stronger enforcement, which I support. And I, Steve and Cindy Johnson, Cindy and Steve, they've had me out. I did a turtle dig with them. Brendan and I did. We dug up like 13 hatchlings. Cindy did. Of course, she's a professional. And then we released them later that night. So I get it. They've educated us. We get it. So I'm very sensitive to their concerns. But I don't think the one-size-fits-all solution is appropriate here. So I will be voting to keep it 45%, but I'll also be voting to really strongly enhance our enforcement efforts.
And so that means that you are going to vote the same way. Dan's probably going to vote the way you're going to vote, which means that it'll leave the final vote up to the mayor.
Well, the mayor at our last meeting was supportive of the current position of 45%, and so was Councilor Allers.
I know you can't talk to him about it, but do you think he'll vote that way, or do you think?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
So, I guess we'll see on Monday, but the South End is important, especially during an election year.
Well, to me, it's a matter of principle, and there are a lot of people who are complying in good faith and care, and it just seems like we're punishing them to go after a few bad apples, and this doesn't seem right to me.
Or uneducated apples.
Yeah, they could be uneducated. I'm sure some of
I
it
don't
is.
think. Yeah, in general, I don't think people are sitting in their house like, let's flip all the lights on.
I think that's fair,
right.
Kim. I think that's fair. Yeah.
So let's talk about trees for a minute. There's something going on at the town council where you're trying to, or you already have. I have a problem keeping up with this. You're trying to create a tree fund, where if people cut down trees in their yard, they, correct me if I'm wrong, I know I'm wrong, that they have to put money in a fund for, it just sounds, explain what, you know what I'm talking about, right, Jim?
Abraham Lincoln once said, it's better to remain silent and be thought ignorant than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Okay.
I don't fully understand the tree ordinance.
I thought you were talking about me.
No, I'm talking about me. I've listened to that. We had a good discussion at the last council meeting. It seemed reasonable. It's the concept is if you're going to improve your property or renovate or whatever, and you're going to take out a bunch of trees, if there's a certain group of trees, indigenous trees that are not invasive species, there's a process that you have to, if you're going to replace them, you've got to get town approval so you can replace them with the right trees, and it's designed to enhance and further the canopy of trees on our island. How it actually works, I haven't had a chance. We just kind of talked about it in M&P, so I have not dug into it because the ordinance hasn't actually come before us yet. So I don't know all the details, but I do think it's a good faith effort to try to maintain as many trees, especially old growth trees that are native to our area, and it's a kind of just a beautification effort for the town, and it's got to be flexible. You've got if you want to make changes, you ought to. I think there's discussion of paying into a fund or replacing them in certain ways. I don't think all that's been hashed out yet in terms of how we're going to reform it. But Murph has come out with some recommendations on it, and they seem reasonable. And I just think it's going to take some more discussion. So I don't know the answers to all that.
The town council whines and complains about how the state is always trying to usurp their local control rights or home rule rights. Mm-hmm. And here the town council is doing the same exact thing on the people.
Well, we have this.
It's their property. They bought that property. They spent a lot of money at it. They don't want to live in a shithole. They want to create something out of the property that they bought.
But Ed, we have zoning rules that are really
That's right.
specific.
You can incorporate anything you want.
But the zoning rules
but it's a little bit hypocritical.
But the zoning rules aren't necessarily just to protect the homeowners. What about the property of the neighbors?
We're not talking about zoning. You're talking about creating a tree fund because somebody wants to take a tree down. Maybe they want to view.
But it's like at the homeowners, like our homeowners association. You can't paint your house a certain.
That's silly too. Well, no, the painting thing. You don't want to pink house.
End up with a house next to you that's dilapidated and
ugly. If you're in a neighborhood with a lot of old growth trees that are native to our island, and somebody comes in and chops down all the trees. It affects the property values of the neighboring properties and the ambiance as well. So, it's a balance. Everybody's got you have to figure out a system where it's fair to everybody. I don't know what the exact answer is, but it's not just, I'm a big property rights person, but you also have to consider the property rights of the neighbors around them.
Here's the thing. Yep. If we had to take the tree down in our backyard because it was poison, it would have been nice if we could have just because it's $2,000 to take the tree down. It's another $500 to add a tree. And so that's a $2,500 waste of money as far as I'm concerned. Nobody can see behind my lanai. So I think that's a silly rule.
So you just wanted to leave the tree?
No,
No,
well,
we
the tree
wanted
had to be taken
yeah,
out. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
poison. It died.
We
But
didn't
I
want to
just
put
wanted
another
leave-
one
It was
in.
a small
you didn't want to put
corner
another
of
one
our
in.
yard.
Yeah.
Nobody could even see back there from the front. That's a dumb rule. But we put the tree in anyway because I don't like to break rules. But my point is, okay, so you have 4 trees in your house because that's what the town decides in that specific neighborhood, or the rules, or the HOA. I get the part where if you take a tree out, you have to put a tree in. But to create a fund that you have to put money in is just the town taking money from people for no reason. Make the
Yeah.
rule
Well, the reason
that
is
you have to put a tree in. I'm down with
In
that.
fairness to your point, I mean, you ought, whatever you do ought to be confined to that property. In other words, to pay money, it's sort of like people who want to develop wetlands. They pay into a fund in Tallahassee or somehow to make everybody feel better. I think that's a fair point.
It's like the whole carbon thing.
Yeah, it's like an offset.
It's
Yeah,
like
carbon
Bitcoin.
offset. Yeah, so I get that. I could see that concern.
Can you bring my name up when you bring that up at the council meeting? No.
I suggest
Hey,
no.
more trees the better. More coconut trees the
Suggest
better, especially
no.
in Bayside Park.
Can we move on to
Yeah,
something
yeah.
else? So, let's see. I was listening to the TDC meeting that you went to.
Oh,
he's
you are
Mr.
very brave.
TDC
Very
here.
brave.
And not to rehash all the stuff that went in there, but I thought it was interesting towards the end, you were asking for them to explain kind of the funding. Can you just reiterate sort of what they said about that? Because as you said, there was some confusion among Fort Myers Beach news outlets.
Yes.
Okay.
And council and members of the
Okay.
town council.
Did you
yeah.
take a shot at us at the TDC?
I took a shot at all of us because it is a Byzantine, archaic process that nobody really talks about. And quite honestly, I'm new to the TDC. I'm just recently appointed by the council, the Tourist Development Council, by the way, for
Right.
folks who are listening. And that is the entity that recommends how to dispense the dollars that are collected from the 5% bed tax that all hotels and rentals pay into this fund, this county-wide fund. And then the Tourist Development Council is made up of the municipalities that exist in Lee County. And because Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel are the 2 largest donors to the fund. By the way, Fort Myers Beach is slightly in the lead as the lead donor to the fund. We take turns having a voting member. We have when one is not a voting member, there's still an ex officio member. So right now it's Sanibel's turn to have a vote. We'll have a vote starting in June of next year. And we just take turns back and forth. And the mayor, Sanibel, is the TDC representative. Anyways, so the TDC, as you can imagine, in this economy is collecting more money than record dollars. So the funds are pouring in. And so, but in that TDC recommendation on Thursday, when we had our formal approval of those items, we had maintenance issues and we had some equipment things that we needed for the beach. Those all got approved. But because the renourishment ask for Fort Myers Beach was so significant, they did not want to do it through the traditional funding mechanism. So they've created a reserve fund, a trust, if you will, a beach renourishment trust that accumulates surplus funds from the TDC budget. I think there's $5.6 million in it now. And so those are the dollars we're now requesting, and that will be how the Fort Myers Beach renourishment is funded. But that's not approved by the TDC. That's actually approved by the county commissioners. So for us to obtain those dollars, we're working on an interlocal agreement between the town of Fort Myers Beach and the county to see how those monies could be advanced to the town of Fort Myers Beach. This will be a 2-tranche dynamic. We'll get some this year. So again, ask for more next year. Because, as you know, it's a $22 million renourishment. I think there was a typo in your article. It's a $22 million renourishment. I think it said 32 in your article. Oh, just you put out so much content. No, don't worry about it. I just want you to know it's $22 million.
Take a bell away.
Take a bell. No, but nonetheless, and so the TDC is working on that with the town and Lee County, and that's Commissioner Sandelli. And we talked about that on Thursday. I reemphasized how the island is in crisis in a number of areas, particularly Leonardo Arms and in certain parts of the North End. And let me just, if I could take a second, Ed, to talk about, Leonardo Arms is its own.
Don't skip ahead because that's part of the question.
Okay.
Don't skip. So, is there enough money in the county trust fund to cover the county's portion of this big fund?
There is for the first installment. Yeah,
Then
they'll have to happen again next year.
Okay. Is the relationship with the county and the town strong enough that you feel 100% confident they'll give you that money?
That's a very good question. I think the answer to that question is yes. Cecil Pendergrass chairs the TDC. He's also chair of the county commissioner, so he heard our arguments. That's why I made sure to reiterate things on Thursday. And then right after that meeting, went over and met with Ray Sandelli and his senior team. and reiterated those concerns. They understand the challenges. So it's the county dollars, it's the town dollars, and it's the state dollars that will all come together. Again, we've got to work through this interlocal agreement process to fund the broader project. It will probably be funded over a 2-year period.
But there was a pregnated pause there, but you did say yes.
Well, yes, but I do think we need to be careful with how we manage our relationship with the county.
It's pretty shitty right now.
Well, I don't think it's. I don't know if
I'm
it's that
taking
bad.
a bell away from that.
No, but I'm just saying is that this county just built an 88 funded. I know it's taxpayer dollars, but they approved. They got a lot. What people forget is there's a lot of competition for dollars within Lee County from communities that have a lot more population than Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah, when you heard the list of things that everybody was asking for, it was a lot of. I mean,
Well,
I'm sure they all need them. I'm just saying it was a long.
But
It was a
set the
long list.
TDC aside a second and just think of that $88 million that went to Estero Boulevard. That a lot of other communities are fighting for those transportation dollars as well because of the growth in Lee County. And so we've got to be careful because quite honestly, Lee County, that's where the funding is. And they're going to build an $80 million bridge on the south end. That's part of Estero Boulevard.
Do you think the town should own Estero Boulevard?
I do not because that means we now inherit an $80 million liability with that South Bridge.
Yeah.
And the county's been really good to work with. When those senior staff, I met with the deputy manager, Dave Harner, super nice guy. He's been with the county for 31 years. He's like, Jim, anything you guys need, just call us. And people say, why aren't they doing more on the lighting? Well, they have classified Estero Boulevard a certain classification because of its volume, its size, etc. And if they go outside that, that's showing special consideration to Fort Myers Beach. They've got other communities in Lee County. Then what do they say to them when they want this and that? They want us to go out. So they have a set of guidelines. But what the county has done, they said, listen, we were going to appropriate $1.4 million for crosswalks for Estero. So we'll just kind of give you that whole allotment and to utilize towards your broader whole project, which I thought is great. So to say, gosh, they should do more. It's great. We just got to be careful.
When Harner said to you, whenever you need something, just call, did that give you the impression that there wasn't communication?
No, I didn't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying is that publicly, I think
I want to know what the truth is.
It is the First Amendment, of course, that anybody can say what they want to say. But I just think we should
not really.
We need to demonstrate our appreciation to the county for what they're doing for our island. They're helping us with the foot of the bridge.
Well,
They're helping us
be
with legal part.
cognizant of the fact that you're not the only one. That this isn't the only situation.
And
let's talk about the beach now, because for the life of me,
we haven't been talking
about the beach renourishment.
Oh, okay.
For the life of me, I can't figure out why Leonardo Arms is not designated like a national emergency. That looks to me like that parking lot could collapse into the
not just the parking lot, it's 10 feet away from the building.
I mean,
if you have a storm event or if you have a significant period of high tide, that's going to good.
And good thing there are never any storms in Florida. I mean, it would never happen.
Well, Leonardo has made some applications for some triaging. They're trying to get permits from the state because they have a sandbag plan that will hopefully get them through until the renourishment comes. It's a significant hit to Leonardo Arms. They're taking massive assessments, to their members in that particular building and other buildings as well. So, I mean, it's a real challenge for them to get through until the renourishment comes. And what concerns me about the Leonardo Arms piece is that, we have this, if you think about our barrier island, 7 miles long with all the wonderful beach access points, it's a great system because it democratizes the beach. Anybody on Fort Myers Beach, regardless of where you live, can walk or take your bike or drive to a beach access point and get on the beach. And once you're on the beach, you could go from Bowditch Point all the way to the southern tip. That is no more because of this erosion issue, particularly in front of Leonardo Arms during high tide or even mid tide.
Yeah, you gotta go.
You can't get through. I mean, there's a seawall, an old seawall it's dangerous, and then you've got it's the water's hitting it. So people have, and I'm just telling you as a member of the TDC, and I think if you watched it, they had a study of why people come to Fort Myers Beach. They come for the beach. They come to relax. They come for the quiet.
And the numbers, as an aside, were very
spectacular.
Very good. Yes.
But if we don't have a beach, and I can tell you, as somebody who lives on the south end, people love to walk that south end. They love to walk the critical wildlife area. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's pristine. It's a critical wildlife area. You can't get there anymore if you're on the north end of the island. To me, that makes this island less accessible.
So what's the answer for them? How do they get that fixed? I mean,
well, they're going to have to triage it short term. But if you see the sandbag plan that they've got,
sandbags.
Yeah, they're going to put massive sandbags along that to triage it until the
because
renourishment comes.
Even if the beach renourishment plan goes according to the time frame that POF laid out, it doesn't start till the summer of next year. I mean, that's a whole hurricane season. It's a long time for them.
It's a dangerous situation. There's no question about it. And, and it's challenging. And by the way, you mentioned I took a cheap shot at the lighting consultant, and rightfully so, because I think they've been very disappointed.
And another one.
But I'm just saying. But I'll just say this, and I think you may agree that the consultant that we've hired to do the renourishment, this coastal engineering, they are spectacular.
He's great. Yeah, he's awesome. He took questions. I want to ask.
He answers every question. Yeah. And the thing that's so important about that, he's respected by the county, who's going to play a big role in this project. He's respected by the state, and boy, he's good. I mean, I have great confidence in their ability to help us through a very difficult issue. As you watched that public meeting the other day,
and he wasn't on a Zoom call. He was right there taking the arrows from everybody, even though it was only 48 hours notice for the meeting. But that's a different story. So if we move down the beach a little bit let's skip to Islands End.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Islands.
Yes,
Okay. So
right near the Wyndham Hotel.
Right. They have 4 football fields or 7,000. It's 9 miles of beach out in front of them. It's a long beach, and
I live very close to there.
The town is trying to get that area designated as critically eroding, even though it's grown because of a pond that develops every summer that Chad says is dangerous. Do you think it should be designated critically eroding? Yes or no?
Well, it's not a yes or no question, only because the more those condo associations and the town communicate, I think we're making progress. There was a lot of there was a lack of communication early on, and a lot of aspersions were cast on both sides. And I think we're now getting to the point where they're looking for assurances that we're going to say what we're going to do what we're going to say we're going to do. And they understandably want control. They want to solve that ponding issue on their own. It is an issue. I mean, I live there, walk by there all the time, and whether it's I don't know if it's a public health hazard. It's more of an eyesore, quite honestly. And it just happens during the rainy season, and there are ways to mitigate that. But I think those condo associations and the town and the consultant need to spend more time together, work through a solution that both sides can be comfortable with. Because it is a challenge, and
is it really a challenge, or is it a money issue? Because if it's designated critically eroding, the state pays for it. If it's not, then the town receives less money.
To me, it's more of a control issue in the sense that I said
and they're currently taking care of it, right?
They say they take care of it all themselves.
They have taken care of it for years.
Since when do you hear somebody, no, thank you, I don't want any help or money?
It is unique because when you say they take care of it, there still is a massive pond there in the summer, and it's a unique situation, and I think they ought to have a lot to say about it because it's right in front of their buildings, but I want to make sure that all those condo associations are represented and heard, because I had a friend who was on the Sandarag board for a long time, and he didn't care for that pond at all, and they were desperately trying to mitigate it. And one of the things that was really helping him, that's right where the sandcastle competition is, and the sandcastle competition would bring in all this beautiful sand every year, and that would help mitigate some of their issues. But then some knucklehead dug when it was all ponded up just a couple of years ago. I was there when it happened, not when they dug the ditch, but right afterwards. If he dug a little ditch that went out into the ocean, and so the whole pond drained. I mean, it was like a massive river by the time it was done, and it took all that good sand from the sandcastle competition that had accumulated all those years back out into the ocean again. So it's kind of a bizarre area. But somebody like our consultant who's got all these years of experience, I'm hoping they can work with the condo associations there and find a compromise where they can feel comfortable about the future. And I know they're worried about future councils, but you can't bind future councils. That's challenging. But I'm hoping that each meeting I see those conversations, they get a little less tense, and there seems to be a little bit more information exchange, which I think is helpful.
So, Jim, why when somebody has they're part of a renourishment project, why is a dune attached to it? Like, why do you have to build a dune?
because that protects.
Wait a second. Are you?
Well, she knows probably more about it than I do.
No, but why does it have to be attached to it? I mean, why can't you just put sand there and leave the dune out?
Well, I think the dune allows for vegetation to be planted, which then retains the sand.
Okay. Well, if you watched the meeting yesterday, I know you did, because when the meeting started, the camera was on you. You were walking around your bedroom. We got to see how cool
that's
you're.
because of my own technological
I
inadequacy.
know. And I said, Jim, I texted Jim. Look at your wife's
Your
going
poor
crazy.
wife is like,
the bed was
what?
a mess. He's fixing his hair. I was like, oh no, if he does anything
I was lucky
creepy.
to make it on the Zoom call. So I mean, yeah.
So the people on the town council.
Date night is over.
The town council was saying how happy everybody on the north end of the island was with their dune, and they loved it. And you people on the south end should shut up. But you didn't say that. Don't worry about the dunes. It's all going to be fine. And then you listen to the meeting yesterday, and it was so the opposite. That dune's 8 feet tall. It's causing flooding. And
I don't know that any of the current council was saying everybody was happy on the north end. I think that was sort of anecdotal. But clearly, what happened 10 years ago could have been handled better. And I think with this engineering firm and the lead time that we have and the communication that we're trying to do, town's not a great communicator, as you know, but I do think that once that meeting began and the consultant was able to answer those questions directly on, and Chad was able to look into each case individually. I'm hoping it goes much better this time, and I hope people participate. And if they don't, God bless them, that's their right. But I think in the long run, most folks will.
Okay, so the last piece of the beach renourishment is the biggest piece, and it's the critical wildlife area. And it's now, for anybody that doesn't know, the CWA is involved in a lawsuit that Eddie and Kurt are suing the state to prove that they own the property behind their homes, which is where a good portion of the CWA sits. The town has denied them a dune walkover. I don't want to rehash the whole story, but there can be millions of dollars worth of difference in what the town pays compared to what the state pays if the state owns the land. The town will have to pay more if Eddie and Kurt own the land, and they seem to think.
I think, the consultant said at the meeting, the worst case scenario would be 1.3 million. I think, if you heard the way I did. Yeah.
And so this is
which is not insignificant,
right?
Don't get me wrong.
And you have some history here, because when you were on the LPA, you voted in favor of the dune walkover. You got elected to the council. You found out some new information, and you're not in favor of it now, or are you?
Just so people don't think I'm nuts. When I was on the LPA, the LPA voted unanimously for the dune walkover, in part because there was nobody there in opposition. For whatever reason, it was not noticed in a way that the opponents found out about it. So we never heard the other side of the LPA. And I went out and met with Eddie. I went to his home, met with him for an hour and a half, had a delightful meeting. And there was nobody there in opposition. Eddie, as you know, is very eloquent and made a great case. Never heard the other side, and the LPA voted for it. So fast forward 6 months later, I'd heard the previous council debate, which rejected it. I heard all this. I heard both sides. My wife and I, again, live nearby. We walked that critical wildlife area many times. Operative to me is it is the critical wildlife area. It's a pristine area. There are very few places left on this island that are pristine and somewhat conserved. We have the Matanzas Pass, to some extent Bowditch Park. Very few places you can go and have a quiet experience. There's very few places where nature has a chance to sort of recover. And it's a beautiful area. So when this came around to me, and I'm not going to get into the minutiae of the case because I don't want to litigate it in public, which is kind of a challenge for the folks that have concerns about it, because the other side, they come on the show as they have every right to do, and they've told their story, and it makes it a little harder to have the other side explain when you're not litigating in public.
When you're talking about the other side,
the folks that have concerns about the walkover,
which would be
there was a litany of folks on the island, and then more formally, the Audubon Society is opposed to it, and they've been in litigation in opposition to it.
And we would love to have them on.
I think if they come on, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
So go on.
So when it came before the council, I said I don't believe it's in the public interest to grant this permit, and for whatever reason, I was the swing vote on that at that time, and so I'm not sure a lot has changed. We saw the consultant on Thursday. Again, tough questions. Say, listen, will this litigation delay the renourishment? The answer is no, it will not. It may impact later on the funding, if they are successful and impact the designation, it could impact the state funding, but we can front that money. And if we win the litigation, the state can then reimburse the town. So what's frustrating is, and it's America, it's how it is, and is that the town is not actually litigating the case. There's no cost to the town. I'm sure the town attorney is spending some time on it, but the Florida League of Cities, we have a contractual relation with the Florida League of Cities. When there's litigation against the town, their professional attorneys come on board. So they're handling particularly the ADA case, the Americans with Disabilities, the case that Mr. Root has filed against the town. And so they're handling that. Eventually the town attorney and probably the Florida League of Cities will get involved. But I've spent some time with them, and I've spent some time because I am concerned about the litigation risks. And I'm not some kind of an ideologue on this thing or not pragmatic. But at the same time, I'm hearing from the other side that they've got a pretty good case, and that we could very well be successful. So I'm going to monitor the situation closely. I'm happy to listen.
Do you think? Yeah. Well, you are the swing vote right now because
that could change. I mean,
it could change in November.
Sure.
So, do you think the walkover damages the CWA the way they have it constructed now?
I think the dune walkover is in the litigants' best. I think it's in their interest. I do not think it's in the public interest. I really don't.
But do you think it does any?
I don't want to get into the minutia of the case. But
you've never said that before. But it's not the case. But do you think if they built a dune walkover the way they say, it would damage the CWA? Yeah. Do you?
It abuts the CWA.
Right.
The wildlife doesn't know what the border of the CWA is.
Right.
It's right next to the CWA. And if you walk back there, I always encourage people, and with the erosion now, the issues, it gets a little more challenging to walk back there. It's a beautiful area. It's where birds
nobody
nest,
questions that.
And it's spectacular. It's calm. It's quiet. And in this dune walkover, which really I think is better described as a bridge over a body of water. Mm-hmm. It's really, because that's in essence what it is. I just don't think it enhances the critical wildlife area, and I don't think it's in the public interest.
So if they win the case, the homeowners, and the CWA is no longer,
the designation goes away.
The designation goes away. It's their land. Who knows what they can do with it or what they can't do with it? Does that worry you that it could go away?
Well, it doesn't really go away. The designation goes away. The designation has certain protections that come with it. So,
would that then allow other people on down to?
They would still have to go through the litigation process. And again, if the litigants are successful with the state, they still don't have a permit from the town for the dune walkover.
Okay, so let me ask you in a different way. If the state loses the case and the homeowners own the land, would you vote for the walkover then?
It depends what the litigation exposure to the town would be. There would be a potential Bert Harris suit.
Right.
There would be a potential. There would be other potential lawsuits, and you want to follow the litigation. And right now we've only heard one side of the litigants, and they make a very impressive argument. But there is another side, and the side that I hear privately is pretty powerful. So, I'm keeping an open mind. I'm listening. I'm watching. I'm not an ideologue on this thing, but at the same time, that critical wildlife area to me is worth fighting for. And
would you want to avoid the Bert Harris if the state doesn't own the land?
It depends how that lawsuit comes out. I'd like to see the judge's order. It depends how they write that order. A lot of it will depend on how that state litigation comes out in terms of how it impacts their ability to be successful in the Bert Harris case.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Anything more on
I think I'm not an attorney, but that's my understanding.
Pop up here.
So, okay, last question on that. If this drags on with the state and the homeowners, it could affect Leonardo Arms in terms
it will
of
not.
He said
not in any. I'm saying you can't send the. Well, even Bill said it yesterday. You can't send the pipe in there if that's still going on. You can't. It's in the area where the
it's far enough away.
Oh, it is.
It's all in the critical wildlife area. but it's far enough away. Their property is far enough away from Leonardo Arms where you could easily triage
I see.
Leonardo Arms area without it impacting that.
They should have done that yesterday, though. They should really help those people out. I mean,
But that's
somebody needs to help
that's a
those
decision
people
for the
out.
state and the county, and the town doesn't have the capability to make that decision unilaterally.
The town bought $1 million piece of property behind.
Do you need a break? Like you've been going a
No,
long
I just
time.
have,
Are you
I got
okay?
a little drink of water here.
Okay.
It's
all right.
10:14, Jim. By the way, that's why we didn't schedule any other guests because it
Well,
feels like it's
Jim's
only been
like-
20
I
minutes.
talk like an
Okay.
auctioneer, so I poor things.
No,
have to-
so the
people have to
town
suffer
bought $1
through all
million
this.
piece of property behind Town Hall. Originally, it was supposed to be for the mooring field. What's it called? Upland Services, which got kiboshed. What do you want to see done with that property?
Well, we were just talking, had an open discussion at the M&P meeting the other day about workforce housing, and a lot of different discussions were bantied about. Good conversation. Somebody from the county was there, very helpful. I thought, what are the zoning possibilities of putting a quad in there for workforce housing if we built something? Because there's really kind of 2 or 3 lots there, and it's a little bit contorted. But
I just want you to know that these people are watching your
Yes,
answer
yes.
because they're the employees here.
These are the
so
workforce.
concerned about
Yeah.
where they can live and the rents that are affecting them, and so
Yeah.
they're listening because it's really impossible for a lot of people that work on the island now because the rents have gone so
And
high.
I don't think
But a
that
quad-
falls
a quad-
short on the council
But a
either.
quad is
They're
not going to
very-
solve anything.
No, and of course it's not going to solve anything. But if we could sit here and talk this thing to death. This is something, since we already own the property, it's actionable. We could hit it quick, get something going. We're just trying to take a little chip out of it. There was a Councilor Hosfrost
That was
came up with
great.
a location that was spectacular,
Mhm.
and I think that's going for $4.5 million now. So it's a little bit pricey, and we got to figure out how the funding
But the
stream.
building's already there.
The building's
It's
already there. Absolutely, just need to be renovated. I think that nobody knows for sure because we're just all guessing, but I think
Right.
potentially
How
50
many
to 20
units? Okay.
units. Because if young people, my kids, I got 3 boys in the 20s. For them, an apartment doesn't need to be 1,000 square feet. It could be
No.
much smaller than that.
Where
So
does the rent need to be on the beach for employees to be able to live there? Where do you think it needs to be?
it's
Like a 900,
Well,
1,000, something like that?
I think a lot of it is just going to depend on how
It's
the
still a
whole
lot.
the whole cash flow of the system. If we set up a not-for-profit trust to own and manage this housing,
Which
for
they have in
workforce housing,
Sanibel, right?
Which they have in Sanibel.
Right.
We're going to have them on in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, you really? That's
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think you're going to have to figure out, because it has to cash flow, and so I don't know the answer. What
Okay.
the actual
Yeah,
rent
and
would
it's
be. Yeah.
not, it's not a town, a Fort Myers Beach issue. It's a
No, and in
Florida
fact,
issue.
it
It's
came
crazy.
up at the TDC. Even
Yeah,
they were talking about.
Yeah, I think I asked about it. I asked if they have any data on
Right.
that, and they need to look at it because clearly it's affecting everybody. We're gonna celebrate. Brenda and I are gonna celebrate our 35th wedding anniversary. We're gonna go down to
Congratulations.
Key West, and we've been reading a lot about Key West. I read their local paper, and I mean, there's nowhere to live in Key West, and we have the same challenges here. I mean, this is a huge Southern Florida issue.
Yeah.
Well, and as they were saying at the TDC meeting, that how people perceive their visit here is the service that
Yeah.
they get. And so if they don't get good service because there's not enough employees, because the employees can't afford to live here, it all trickles down. It reminded me of the water issue.
You should run for office. That was
the
excellent.
water issue is the economy. So you
everything,
got to
yeah.
fix those things that are integral to the functioning of what you got going on here.
Is it really the water or is it the turtles? I get confused every once in a while.
Well, without clean water, we got nothing. But I do think this affordable housing is the wrong way to pitch it. It's workforce housing.
Yes.
If you say workforce housing and mean it, which is what hopefully we're focusing on as a council, it generally garners pretty good public support. If you talk
Sure.
about affordable housing, that gets people worried.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think there's options. We've got a little bit of a funding stream now going. It's going to take a little while to build up, but it's
And
possible.
For people that don't know, the funding stream is the parking increase to $5.
Parking and there was a short-term rental increase
yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a discussion about charging a fee per room at the last
I think one of the
council meeting?
counselors teased that out as an idea that may be coming, but I didn't hear anything specific on
because
it.
it set the vacation rental people on fire.
He just teased that idea out. It was not me. It was someone else who teased that out, but
Bill
didn't
Veach, by the way.
elaborate. Didn't elaborate on it.
So we've gone way too long, and I know you have other things to do, but of course I need to ask you about tomorrow's meeting, Monday's meeting, when finally somebody decided that they were going to put the town manager's review on the agenda. The last possible meeting, maybe that was the plan all along. A year ago, it went into June. And for folks that don't know, in the town manager's contract, it calls for him to be publicly reviewed by the council in an open meeting so that the public can see what their $200,000 is going toward. And I know I'm a broken record on it, and I harp on it all the time, and I apologize for that if it pisses people off. But I just think that the public have a right to know about how their town manager is performing. A year ago, you thought he needed to be replaced because the Renaissance needed new leadership. Do you feel differently a year later?
Well, I didn't actually say that, but I did force a number of parliamentary procedures to force a public review, and it was never really granted. So I did the review, and one of my colleagues did something similar. I think the review is very appropriate. I'm glad it's on the agenda for next week. I'm going to have some things to say on Monday that I think, because it is a performance evaluation, I'd rather not say them here. I'd rather just disclose them at the meeting on Monday. But to your point, I think it's good that we have this on the agenda. I think it's good to have a public conversation about it, and I think it's helpful.
Do you think the town manager is doing a good job?
I think the town manager. Thank you, Kim. But no, I think we're coming into a window here now where the town manager's strengths of managing large, complex projects, construction projects, is important. We just lost our public works director, who's been with the town for a long time. We don't have a finance director. And so I'm worried that at this point in time, to have instability in that position, I don't know if it's in the best interest of the town.
His contract runs through 2024. Do you think it should be extended?
I don't think at this point there's any discussion of extending that contract.
Okay.
And there quite honestly, there shouldn't be until the next council comes in.
Okay. Way to get around that question. I don't know what the answer was, but that was a great answer. Thank you.
It was a wait and see.
Well, we'll hear it Monday. Monday.
That's correct. That's fair.
And that's appropriate.
Yeah. Is it?
It is appropriate.
Well, you still have to ask the question, dear.
Well, you can ask it, but you
can ask any question you want. I won't.
Any other questions for Jim, dear?
No.
Is there anything you want to share with our 9 listeners?
Have you guys thought about having the people who run the beach taxi or the taxi service on your show?
Yes. It didn't go well.
Didn't go? Really?
Yeah. I asked him repeatedly if he wanted to come on the show, and he just keeps texting me one answer: no.
I would think there'd be tremendous publicity for
free
him.
Publicity.
I love this concept of having a taxi.
I think he's too busy.
Is he really?
I think he said it's season. He's too busy. He's trying to run a business, and he's probably doing it now. He's probably doing it now. So we tried, and we'll keep trying.
Yeah. Imagine if you had a larger boat.
Does he not like you? Did you say something?
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. I mean, that's certainly on the table. So that's what you wanted to say? I mean,
no, we've
talked about something prophetic.
We've talked about everything under the sun. But I'm all talked out. But I just was thinking about it on the way down because we have all these wonderful marinas.
Yeah.
And if they could stop at each marina, people could park their cars there. They could go out to dinner. They could go across on the bay side, and then they could come home and they wouldn't have to clog up the roads. It wouldn't solve the traffic problem, but to have another option, I think people would see that as a wonderful adventure to get out, take the boat out for the night, and then come back. And it just seems to be that could, I know there's a hotel in Cape Coral that sends a boat over to Nervous Nellies every day.
Really?
And the people come and hang out for the day, then they go back there again. I would love to see more of that just to help try to mitigate this traffic issue.
You got that right, Mark. And Holly Smith was watching. She said, great show. I know you guys are on the TDC
Holly
together.
She is a firecracker.
She's great.
And she works hard. She's everywhere.
She's so knowledgeable,
very knowledgeable.
and well-spoken.
Awesome mayor out there.
Very much a go-getter.
Good friend of the show. And so we 35 years of marriage. How do you keep it together? I mean, I know your wife's a pain in the ass, and she can really be hard to live with and all that. And she's in better shape than you and all that. So how does
get in here? Your celebration might be in jeopardy after.
I know. What was that?
You showed your bedroom in the meeting.
Well, I just tell you to celebrate.
He was doing this. He was fixing his hair. Like he was looking in a mirror.
To celebrate my birthday. by coming on Beach Talk Radio is the highlight of
I
her
know.
day.
Of course
And
it
World
is.
Migratory
It
Birthday.
took all the pressure off her to create some beautiful celebration for my big birthday party by coming
Michelle,
here.
Michelle, the former town clerk, is watching, and she asked my last question, and I didn't even ask it. I can't believe it. If tomorrow was election day on Fort Myers Beach, who would you vote for?
Well, I'm going to give you the same answer I gave when I ran the first time. You asked me about my fellow candidates who I was running against. We had 7 people running for 3 spots. And I said, I am so thankful there are people willing to step into what Teddy Roosevelt called the arena, to take all of the heat and to spend a lot of time and effort to serve the public. And I'm very thankful there's 4 people. I'm hoping there's more. And I think we have a great field of candidates. I'm excited about the prospects for November. Now that was escape. But at the same time, I really do believe, the more, when I first announced, I was the first one to announce, I knew Councilor Allers was, or then Danny Allers was going to run. I wasn't running against Dan. I knew there were 3 spots. And I thought there might be just 2 or 3 people running, but come back near the end of it, there were 7 people running. And I thought that was really good. We really honed us, made us better people, made us better candidates, forced us to learn more about the issues, forced us to walk the whole island and talk to people all over the island. So I think it's a healthy process. I hope people are patient with these candidates, because the campaign to me was even more time consuming and challenging than the serving. And so it's a tough process. And so God bless those people that are willing to take their time and treasure and effort to go forth and do it. So I wish them all well.
Thanks for coming on, Jim. You're always great. You're always answer all the questions. You're a friend of the show. We appreciate that. And enjoy your birthday today.
Thanks for all you guys do.
Enjoy
Jim
your birthday.
Atterholt, everybody.
Yay.
A big round of applause from our live studio audience.
I can't believe how many
Thank you, Jim.
birthdays there are in May of people that we know. It's a lot.
It's having Jim on the show is, I'll let you go talk to those
Okay.
guys. I'm going to read the ad, but it's so much fun to have him on the show. It's 10:30. It's an hour and a half of a show that felt like it was 20 minutes. The Farmers Market at Beach Baptist, everybody, goes into May 27th, and that is at 130 Connecticut Street. And we want you to go by there and see them and spend some of your hard-earned money with them, because they have a lot of great stuff, from fruit to muffins to tacos to Cuban food. And they have other vendors, and they have other things to buy, cool things you can send your friends back in wherever they went back home, Michigan or Ohio or Chicago, my favorite city in the entire world. But you can buy some stuff or you could just buy it for yourself and keep it at your house or your bungalow or your apartment or wherever you live, your tent, under the bridge, whatever suits you. But go to the Beach Baptist on Wednesdays and Fridays at 130 Connecticut Street, now and through May 27th until they start it back up again. Wednesday and Friday at the Beach Baptist. And of course, we would also like to thank Island Carts FMB. You saw the clean carts out. You see them all out on Estero Boulevard, not riding on the sidewalks, not riding on the beach, not riding the wrong way. They're nice new carts with batteries that last a long time because they went for the lithium batteries. They have plates, makes them street legal. They smell nice because they have those little smelly things that they hang down from the middle of the rear view mirror. They have rear view mirrors. And they have Wi-Fi's that you can listen to our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week music station, which is all happy beach music and none of me. No criticisms and no Roger this or Roger that, just great sounding music. And that's what you want when you're on the beach on vacation or tooling around town when there's less traffic like there was today, riding your bike. But you put it on the street and you ride like it's a vehicle because it's street legal. Island Carts FMB, you can check them out online. They have 4-seaters, 6-seaters. I think they have 8-seaters or 50-seaters. But I know they for sure they have 4 and 6-seaters. 844-362-2278. That's 844-362-2278. Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in today. We owe an ad for Beach Pottery that we'll make good on, and also the Tiki Tours, folks. But, it's 10:30, and we have a party at our house tonight, so we need to get home and cut the lawn. And we're going to be hanging out because our daughter's turning 25. That's right, she's turning 25. Yeah, you know what that means? That we're going to be 60 like Atterholt pretty damn soon. Hope we're in as good a shape as Jim Atterholt. We'll be back next Saturday. We have great guests lined up for the next few weeks. And good luck to you all this weekend, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.